Hey guys, I'm Anthony and welcome to After Van Life. So guys, today I wanted to just sit down and share with you guys the story of how I lost my house to foreclosure. Now, I know that there are a lot of new people that are now watching my channel. Welcome. Thank you guys for tuning in and taking some strange reason to have an interest in my life. But nonetheless, thank you for tuning in. And for those of you who have been with me for a while, you guys know how I feel about you. And a lot of you may know this story, and a lot of you may not know this story, or you may not remember this story. I did have a dedicated video telling this story on my channel, but when I went back and took certain videos off of my channel, that was one of the videos that I took off. But I also felt like it was an important story in my life, and it was important place in my life. And since I'm being so personal on my channel and sharing so much of my life, I think that this is a story that should remain on my channel. So I decided to sit down and retell the story so that this story can be a part of my channel. Now, the way that I'm going to approach telling you guys this story is not going to be like a detailed timeline of what happened that got me to that point of foreclosure. I'm more or less going to approach this story by saying how I grew as a person in the past 5 to 10 years. And what I mean by that is I became this person that took ownership of the decisions that I made in my life. I decided that, whenever I make a decision, there could be the consequence of the decision could be good or it could be bad. Because every decision that I make in my life has some type of consequence, whether it's good or bad. This happens to be a decision that I made in my life that had a not so good consequence. So, I also want to put a disclaimer out there right out the gate, that I have never been upset with any of the parties that was involved in this whole situation. Once again, at that time in my life, I had come to the conclusion that I am an adult, I am responsible for the decisions that I make, and no other parties involved should be a part of any kind of maybe animosity that I have, which I did not have for any people involved in this story. So, with that being said, I decided to lend my hand in a situation. As it turned out, the outcome of this situation kind of came back to me being the secondary person, and it was up to me to handle the situation. And again, no one twisted my arm, no one put a gun to my head. I willingly decided to be a participant in this situation. So, what happened basically was that it was a financial type of situation that kind of, like I said, was a not so good consequence. And it took me 5 years to resolve that bad decision, that bad consequence, I should say. And when I was going through it, the first year and a half, it was a situation where the financial responsibility of that situation was almost as great as my mortgage. So therefore, after a year and a half of balancing both of them out, plus every other thing that I had to pay to, take care of my normal daily things that you need to live, it became overwhelming. At that point, a year and a half into it, I had exhausted all of my savings trying to keep both up plus everything else. Once that was no longer an option, I had to make a decision because I couldn't keep both of them going. And and it turned out that, I need to get situated. And it turned out that, those people, let me tell you, when people want their money, when there are lawyers involved, they want their money. There's no saying, okay, can I skip a couple months? None of this, none of that. No, they want their money, and they will go through any extreme to get that money from you. Even if it means like garnishing your wages or whatever. Now, I did get to the point where my wages were garnished, but it was thankfully the last 6 months of the whole ordeal, and not like the entire 5 years that it took me to resolve this whole issue. So, I'm gonna tell you two things that I felt after the fact that the 5 years was over with. I had resolved the issue, the financial obligation was over with, and the two things that I felt when I was finished all that was, one, I felt proud of myself. I felt proud of myself because I did the adult thing and I took care of it. It wasn't easy. It was difficult. There were many moments where I thought that, I didn't have enough money to pay Peter. I had to, what's the saying? I had to rob Peter to pay Paul. I was in many of those type situations where I had to make a decision. I had to maneuver because the money was just not there when it was supposed to be there, or it should have been there. And, just by me getting through just about 3.5 years of that, it just made me so much stronger as a person. And it also made me realize that, I can pull through anything if in the future in my life I have a hardship, that I'm not going to panic. I am going to relax, be more rationalized in my thinking, because when we get into hardships, a lot of times our first instinct is to panic. Oh my God, what am I going to do here? I can't do this. I can't afford this. But I have truly learned from this experience to, if anything dealing with hardships in my life comes up in the future, that I am not going to panic. I am going to relax, think things through on a relaxed level, and then start working things through. One of the things that makes us different and separates us as a person is the ability to come out of a hardship. Everybody has adversities in life, and it's how you come out of those adversities which separates us. And I have truly, truly learned from that experience. Now, the other thing that I felt was relief. I was so relieved to be from underneath that house. I mean, wow, I was that much happier. And for someone to have just lost their house, you would think that they would be maybe a little sad about it. They attached to the house, yada yada yada. Not me. I was relieved that that house was from under me, because I'm gonna tell you guys this. I never really wanted a house. I worked with this guy for 10 years. I was the operator and he was the road tender doing what I'm doing now. And every year, for some reason, he would go through this phase with me of trying to convince me to buy a house. How long have you been working here? Well, you should have a house by now, this, that, and the other. And just out of curiosity, one year, this was probably after like 5 years of him reoccurring this same conversation. And just out of curiosity, I took the first step. Then, next thing I know, the first step became the second step, the third step. Next thing you know, I'm out with a realtor looking at houses. 3 months later, I done bought myself a damn house. And I was like, whoa, what the F-U-C-K just happened here? You know how some people are so excited when they are looking at homes, and, they visualizing things when they go into a home and everything. Not me. I was going into these homes like, okay, you know, just so, what is the word, monochromatic or whatever, just like nonchalant, there was like, I'm not going to say there was zero excitement, but it definitely was not at the excitement level of someone who has planned on buying a home and got to that point where they're now looking at different homes. It wasn't that type of excitement. So I never really 100% in my heart of heart wanted a home. Yeah, I know. Not everybody has that American dream of owning a home and a white picket fence and all of that kind of stuff. I was one of those people who could care less whether I had a home or not, you know? And so therefore, and that's why another thing where I am now living in an apartment, it doesn't bother me. It doesn't bother me. Because if I could go back, I would have still been in an apartment this whole entire time. And the other thing that I also thought about while I decided to make this video is, where would I have been had I still had that house and my company shut down in Baltimore? I mean, I wouldn't have had the freedom to make moves like I did as freely as I was able to go to Lancaster without a doubt, because I was already living in my van when the company in Baltimore shut down. It was easy for me to make that decision, even though I was trying to make pretend it was a hard decision. Oh, do I really want to go to Lancaster and work? Yada, yada, yada. Please. It was an easy decision for me because I already had everything that I owned in my van. All I had to do was drive up to Lancaster. Not like a lot of the other people who had families to consider, a home to consider. I had none of that stuff to consider. So it was pretty easy for me to make that decision. And I thought, you know, what would I have done had I still had that house? Because here is a whole company shutting down, a whole printing department is going to be out there looking for jobs. Baltimore didn't have that many printing companies where all of us could have possibly gone and worked. And let's be honest, there were some of those people that I certainly would have wanted to follow to another job and work with. So I thought about that in a sense as well. I think right now where I am in my life is where I'm supposed to be, minus the lack of the financial expectations where think I should be right now. As far as my living arrangements and all of that stuff, I think I am where I wanted to be because I never really felt like I really wanted to own a home. I think I look at myself now, especially now, as a person that would rather much have their freedom to do whatever they want to do and move about and make certain decisions that a lot of people can't make right now in my life. And I love that. Even though now I am attached to a lease, that year is only a year. After that year or coming up towards that year, I have the freedom in my life to make a decision whether I want to stay here in PA, whether I want to look for a job somewhere else, get an apartment somewhere else. I have that freedom. And for me, right now in my life, I love that about myself. So, with all of that being said, I guess I just think that I love the growth that I have become as an adult. I've learned that the decisions that I make in my life are my decisions. I cannot make anyone else accountable for my decisions but me. And with that being said, ladies and gentlemen, as always, thank you guys so very much for taking a few minutes out of your day to watch my videos. I appreciate you guys greatly, and I will see you guys the next time.